Resourceful Designer, episode 294. What makes you different?
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. He had a Disney movie collection long before he had kids. Mark Decote.
I actually still have that collection, although it's almost exclusively on VHS, and since I don't have a VCR to play any of them, it doesn't really do me any good. But I still have them. Anyway, in this episode, I want you to think about what makes you different. What's your USP, your unique selling proposition? Why should a client choose you over an equally talented designer from across town? If you can figure this out, you may be able to land many more clients. But before I get to that, just a quick mention that I've opened up the Resourceful Designer blog to guest authors. I've had several reach out. It's a little bit slower process than I expected as people send me ideas and then get to writing and maybe me sending back some edits that I may ask them to do. But I'm in the process of getting a few articles ready to publish, but I would love to have you write an article for Resourceful Designer. If you have an idea for an article that you think would benefit designers who are running or thinking of running their own design business, please send me an email at feedback@resourcefuldesigner.com. Along with publishing your article, I'll give you full credit in a bio section, an author section of the article, with a link back to your website. And this will be a do follow link that will give you all the SEO juice passed on to help boost your ranking and just give you a little bit more credibility in the space as being an author published in a website like Resourceful Designer. As I said, I've had a few people reach out. I've had a few articles submitted. We're going back and forth, and pretty soon you're going to start seeing more things appearing in the Resourceful Designer blog. So I'm looking forward to that. But once again, I would love to have your article. If you're interested, just send me an email at feedback@resourcefuldesigner.com to get the process started. And now, what makes you different? One of the best things about being human is our ability to make choices. Say you're in the mood for a hamburger, but you're also in a little bit of a rush. You still have options that you can choose from. Do you go to McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, or maybe one of the other fast food burger joints? If you're in the market for a new car, do you look at Ford, Dodge, maybe Toyota or Honda? Do you need a new computer? Well, you can choose one of the many models of PCs out there, or go with what, in my opinion, is the better choice, a Mac. But I know I'm biased, don't hold it against me. But regardless of the choices you have to make, the ultimate decision is still up to you. But how do you go about choosing? You do so by looking at what makes each available option different and how those differences appeal to you. I mean, we all know that not all hamburgers are equal. McDonald's has always stated that great taste is what makes them different. Now, I know that seems very subjective, but it is the reoccurring marketing slogan they've used over the years. Burger King claims it's their flame broiling that makes them different, and at Wendy's, it's the fact that their meat is never frozen, so it tastes fresher. But ultimately, you decide which one of these differences appeals to you the most, and that's where you end up getting your burger. Well, this same concept that makes something different can equally apply to designers. What makes you different from other designers in your town? What would make a client choose you over one of them? If you can figure that out and use it to your advantage, you may find yourself outpacing your competition with more work than you can handle. So what makes you different? Maybe it's your culture or heritage. People find it easier to deal with people who are similar to them or who understand them. I'm recording this episode in the middle of May, which happens to be Asian Heritage Month. Now, as a white person, I would never expect to be hired to design a campaign for Asian Heritage Month. It's not that I don't think I could do a good job at it. It's just that I feel that an Asian designer would be better suited for this sort of project. After all, they can relate to the subject matter way better than I ever could. So whatever your heritage or culture is, you should try to embrace it and find a way to use it to your advantage. Katie, a member of the resourceful designer community, is an Indigenous Canadian woman. She's using this to her advantage by marketing her design business towards First Nation-run companies, organizations, and groups. And let me tell you, she's killing it. She told us that she had to halt a recent marketing campaign because she's already booked into 2023. That's 8 months away. Now, wouldn't you love to be completely booked for the rest of the year? In fact, Katie's become so busy that she's in the process of hiring another designer to help with the workload. Now, how is this possible? Is it because Katie is amazing at marketing her services? Well, that may be part of it. But her marketing message alone isn't what's bringing in new clients. It's who she's marketing to. First Nations people, just like everyone else, need help when it comes to design and branding. And when given a choice, there it is again, that word, choice. When given a choice, they are more likely to choose someone like Katie, who is a member of a First Nation, somebody who understands their culture and doesn't need to be educated on what works and what doesn't work for them. Simplified, this means that they are comfortable working with her because she understands them. And that makes it easy for them to choose her over another designer who is not a member of a First Nation. Perhaps you can apply a similar strategy. Are you, Hispanic, Asian, a person of color? Have you ever thought of marketing yourself to people of the same ethnic background as you? It may give you an advantage over others in your field, as clients may prefer you over someone who isn't the same ethnicity as them. It's worth a try. But there's more than just culture and heritage. What about gender and orientation? Now, there has never been so much discussion over gender and orientation as there is today. And that's a good thing. The more we talk about it, the more it'll become accepted. But when it comes to your business, your gender and orientation could be a great opportunity to attract clients. If you are part of the LGBTQ community, you have an advantage over those of us, like myself, who aren't. Like-minded people prefer to deal with like-minded people. It makes them feel safe and understood. And it's no different when it comes to business. I know it's not design related, but I recently heard of a podcast editing company that only deals with LGBTQ clients. They've created a place where LGBTQ podcasters can feel safe and unjudged for the podcasts that they create. Well, the same concept can be applied to a design business. An LGBTQ entrepreneur may feel more comfortable working with a designer from the same community. The manager at the print shop that I used to work at is gay, and I know we had many LGBTQ clients because they felt comfortable dealing with him. It makes sense. Now, when we talk about gender, it could be as simple as a female designer opting to work with women-led businesses. I've heard of several designers who do just this. They only work with businesses that are run by other women, and they have plenty of work to keep them busy. But what if you're someone who can't embrace your culture or heritage, or your particular gender or orientation doesn't help? Then maybe you want to look at niching. Now, choosing a niche makes you different than any other designer who doesn't specialize. Take Craig Burton, for example. I interviewed him back in episode 174 of the podcast. Craig's design company is called School Branding Matters. And you guessed it, he designs brands for schools. And that's what makes Craig different. It's what makes him stand out, and it helps him land clients around the globe. Not bad for a designer from New Zealand. Because anytime a school that needs a new brand searches for a designer, there's a good chance that they come across Craig's website. And when given a choice between a generic designer and one who specializes in school branding, their choice is fairly simple. After all, there's good chance that they won't have to explain to Craig all the intricacies of the school ecosystem and how a brand would be incorporated, because he already knows all that stuff from dealing in the niche. So yes, niches are a great way to make yourself different. You can learn more about niches by listening to episodes 54 and 93 of the podcast, and of course, episode 174, where I interviewed Craig. But are there other ways that you can make yourself stand out from other similar designers? Sure there are. Take Ian Paget, for example. You may know him as Logo Geek. He's a logo designer from Manchester in the UK, and he has a popular podcast, the same name as his business, Logo Geek. Now, Ian, as you can tell by the name, specializes in logo designs. But so do a lot of other designers. So how does he stand out? Well, I just mentioned that he has a logo design podcast, so that gives him some authority in the space. Ian has also judged logo design competitions, and he's written articles about logo design for some very well-established publications. All of this gives him credibility and has earned him some prestigious clients. He's been hired to design logos for universities, big corporations, large conferences, and so much more. His credentials differentiate him from all the other logo designers around, and he uses it to his advantage, and it's working for him. But you don't have to go to those extremes to be different. All the things I just talked about are big steps, but there are little things you can do to set yourself apart. And I'll use myself as an example. As you may know, a few years ago, I started a second design business called Podcast Branding, which specializes in podcast cover artwork and websites for podcasters. Now, there are other businesses that specialize in podcast cover arts besides me. And even though I know I'm priced higher than most of my competition, I still have a thriving business. So what did I do to make myself different? Well, for one, I established that not only am I a designer, but I'm also a podcaster. I've been podcasting since 2013, and that helps lay a strong foundation towards my credibility in this space. I get podcasting. Now, of course, any designer can design a square piece of art, but the fact that I'm familiar with the podcast industry helps me stand out. The other thing that I do that makes me unique is to offer a one-on-one meeting with every client. Most of my competitors provide a questionnaire for clients to fill out. They then take the client's information from that questionnaire and design the podcast cover art for them. The client never actually interacts with the designer. I, on the other hand, get on a Zoom call with every client that places an order with me. I want to discuss their podcast. I ask them why they're starting a podcast. What do they hope to accomplish? How will they know if the podcast is successful? What measurements will they be using? What format will it be? Is it just going to be them? Will they have a co-host? Are they going to be interviewing people? How often are they putting the podcast out? I want to know all this stuff. Even though it has nothing to do with the artwork, I still want to know. So I find out everything I can about their new show. And I do this for two reasons. One, as I said, I need to know about the show if I'm going to design artwork for it. But two, and probably the most important reason, is I want to get a feel for who this podcaster is. Their personality will affect the way I design for them. If I meet with somebody that's starting a podcast and this person comes off very serious and formal, that will influence the way I design something. However, if they come across very joyful, energetic, bubbly, I'll probably design something in a completely different way. And these 15-minute live one-on-one meetings have made a huge difference for me. And I've been told over and over, it's the reason why a client chose me over someone else. Even when I'm the more expensive option, they felt my way of doing things is more personal than just filling out a questionnaire. We all know that finding new clients can be difficult, especially when you're just starting out. We also know that word of mouth is the most common way designers get new clients. I talked about this in length just a few episodes ago in episode 281 of the podcast. Word of mouth spreads quickest among like-minded people. Why is Katie doing so well? It's because Indigenous people talk to other Indigenous people. And when she does a good job with one of them, word spreads. The same applies in all communities, whether it's an Asian or colored community, an LGBTQ community, or even a school or a podcaster community. Like-minded people talk to like-minded people. And when you do a good job helping one of them, they'll spread the word, especially if they know that you specialize in their people in that community. That gives you the leg up and the credibility to get those clients. So what's unique about you? What can you do to make yourself stand out from the competition? What can you do differently that will make clients choose you? Figuring that out can mean the difference between you looking for your next client and you being completely booked for the rest of the year. Worth thinking about, isn't it? And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Now, I would love for you to share what makes you different. Leave a comment for this episode at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 294 and let people know how you differentiate yourself from your competition. Now, what's not a competition is the Resourceful Designer blog. Once again, I just want to mention, if you would like to write an article, if you think it would help you either gain credibility or just you want the backlink back to your website to help with your SEO, reach out to me at feedback@resourcefuldesigner.com. Let me know what idea you have, and if I like the idea, I'll tell you to proceed, write up an article, and we'll get it published. Let's help each other out with this. I look forward to hearing from you. But that's it for me. Until next time, I am Mark Decote, wishing you all the best with your design business and hoping that you figure out what makes you different. But while you're doing that, I want to remind you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.